key lesson. There's a little blue light on there. Can you see a little blue light? Oh, you got to look in. Yeah, it's on. Okay. All right. So anyhow, real important lesson. If for any reason you feel like you want to review this lesson, it'll be on HCS math class. It'll be titled Pre-Algebra Lesson 1.2 Adding Integers, Part 2, and it's got 2 stars on it to tell you that it's this year's video. So if you want to go back and review what we talked about in class today, because this is foundational, it'll be there on YouTube. Easiest way, go to Google Plus HCS Math Class, and there it will be. All right, this is 12 or 1.2b, adding with different signs. And so let's go ahead and get started. All right, first off, you got to remember we're adding intuitively. All right, so we need to get to the point where number lines are great. They work great. They're easy, but they're not practical. They're just not practical. And so we got to get to the point where we can add positive and negative numbers without a number line. All right, so again, what is the key? Think of the numbers as that amount of positives. I'm doing that in green. You could write the word positive. I did a plus sign apostrophe S, or you can write the word positives. And that amount, I'm going to take my red, and again, I'm doing a minus sign apostrophe S for negatives. You can write the word negatives if you want. That's the key. I'm just telling you, all the way through your math career, if you'll think of them as positives and negatives, you're going to be in good shape. But if you start thinking subtraction, oh, Nelly, all right, you're in trouble. I'm just telling you, you're going to mess up. I've seen it for 30 years, students messing up. All right, clicky people, hold on there, all right? So think of them as positives and negatives. You know, first example, 4, that's 4 positives. Second example, negative 5, that's 5 negatives. If you'll think of them that way, it's really, 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 really easy. All right, let's remember this. When, I'm going to take my red, when opposite numbers are added, so opposite. We talked about this a couple days ago. When opposite numbers are added, the sum is 0. So when opposite numbers are added, the sum is 0. So look right here. And in that thought, this is the way it works. I'm going to literally, for my 4 positives, you don't need to put this in your notes. You can if you want. I'm going to make 4 positive signs. Okay? 4 positives. Do you agree? I'm going to take my red now, and for the 5 negatives, I'm going to add these 2 up. I'm going to write 5 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, here's exactly what happens when you add positive and negative numbers. And our number line showed us this. I'm going to take my blue here. I'm going to box in those 4 positives and 4 of the 5 negatives. Inside the box is opposite numbers. Inside the box, I have positive 4 and I have negative 4 inside the box. 4 positives and 4 negatives equals, whenever I do that, I want the class to say it. 4 positives and 4 negatives equals 0. So this is gone. What's left? 1 negative. That's exactly what's left. What's the answer then? Negative 1. Because those 4 positives wiped out 4 of those 5 negatives, leaving only 1 negative left. We're going to get to the point where we're just doing this in our head, but that's where we're working toward. We got to train our brain a little bit first. So today and Monday, we're going to train our brain, even Tuesday, into thinking this way. But that's the concept. That's the idea. So again, get your blue here. So again, just real quick, opposite numbers, positive 5 and negative 5, 0, right? 5 positives and 5 negatives, it's 0. They're opposite numbers. What's number 2? It's 0. 7 negative, 7 positives is 0. The bottom, 7 negative, 7 positive, it's 0. They're opposite numbers. Now look at number 3. Remember, number 3 is 9 positives, not subtract. It's 9 positives and 9 negatives. Opposite number is 0. What's 9 positive, 9 negatives? 0. So that's the basis of how this method works. That's the basis of what's going on, is the fact that there's always opposite numbers involved, and I'll show you that as we go. All right. So now we got to deal with add-ins with different signs. Remember, don't worry about the word add-in. Add-in just means two numbers. Two numbers that have different signs, meaning one of the numbers is a positive number, the other number is a negative number. Now, it's important that you understand that, because last night on the back of your homework, didn't you add two negative numbers? You don't add two negative numbers the same way you add one positive and one negative number. It's a different situation. Two negative numbers, that many of them, and so much more of them. Right? Positives and negatives, it's not like that. One's positive, one's negative. One of the numbers is going to wipe out the same amount of the other number, and we're going to figure out how many are left. That's exactly what's going on. That's how it works. Let me refresh your memory with the number line. Let's see, I think it was down below here. Yeah, so remember with the number line, let me get it high for you. Remember with the number line, I was telling you how 4 of those positives wiped out 4 of those negatives, and what was left? 7 negatives, the answer. It's exactly what we're going to do, but we're not going to do it on a number line. We're going to do it with the numbers. So that's the key, and that's what we're doing. And it's once you learn it, it's really easy. What I need you guys, though, is pay attention to detail right now so that you'll know how to write everything. So add-ins with different signs. Always be sure that the sign of the sum, meaning your answer, is always the same as the add-in, the number with the most. Remember I told you yesterday that a lot of students, they miss a problem because they have the sign wrong. It's supposed to be a positive. They have a negative answer. It's supposed to be a negative, and they have a positive answer. You don't ever want to miss a problem because of that when you're adding a positive and a negative number. Whichever one you have the most of, your answer is going to be that. Look, focus now, listen. If you have more positives than negatives, your answer has to end up positive. If you have more negatives than positive, your answer has to end up negative. It has to. Every time. That's it. So again, don't get confused with adding negatives. That's a different situation. We're adding one positive and one negative. Whatever the most is, the sign's always going to be that. So be careful there and think about that when you're checking your work. Have your parents told you, hey, make sure you check your work on a quiz or a test before you turn it in? Well, look at that kind of thing. All right, so how are we going to add? We're going to start with the one with the least. We're going to start with the one with the least. And let me put the word amount because I'm not worried about the actual value. So we're going to start with the one with the least amount. We're going to take all of them. I'll show you how to do it in a minute. I'm just giving you words to go back and look at. Take your blue. So what's next? Take the same amount of the one with the most. I'll show you this in a minute, and I'll review it for you in a minute. No, it doesn't make a lot of sense right now because it's just words. I'll come back and show you how it all fits. All right, it says this makes opposite numbers. So what's the sum of opposite numbers, class? 0. So that part ends up being 0. The ones left from the amount with the most is the solution. And that's as easy as it is. And once we train our brain, we're just going to do this in our head. And it's going to be It should be that quick, and it should be automatic, and it should be easy. So that's where we're heading. Again, we're going to do them in our head Thursday next week. We got to train our brains between now and Thursday. And then once Thursday comes, hopefully we got it down and we can just do it in our heads. So again, I understand right now to do this requires a little bit more time and a little bit more work. Just hang in there. Hang in there. Okay. So all right. So let me show you how we do it. Take a look at example 1 here on the left. So here's our problem. We have 5 negatives and we have 2 positives. Do you agree? Okay. So we have 5 negatives, we got 2 positives. You guys are going to kill people. Okay, stop killing people. So you've got 5 negatives and 2 positives. All right, so here's the way we do it. You want to start with the one with the least amount. I hope we all know 2 is less than 5, right? The least amount. There's 5 negatives, there's 2 positives. 2 is small. So you're supposed to start with the one with the least and take all of them. 2 positives. Now from the one with the most, take the same amount. How many positives did I take? 2. So I want to take 2 of the negatives. What's 2 negatives and 2 positives, class? 0. So see again, I'm going to take my blue, I'm going to cross those out because there's 0, right? They wipe each other out. It's exactly what would happen on the number line. They wipe each other out. If I took 2 of the 5 negatives, how many negatives are left? 3. What's the answer? 3 negatives. And how do we write it? As negative 3. And that's how your work should look. Just like that. Just like that. So I had most of it there already on your notes for you. We'll do the next example. And a couple more on the back to try to get you to see what we're doing. So, the numbers can be in different places. That's okay if you learn the procedure. So, let's work it together. Somebody tell me what to do first. Raise your hand and I'll call on somebody. Tell me, well, how do I want to start this one? Luke? Not yet. Not yet. That's okay, though. Try, right? You might be right. We'll keep working. Juliana? Okay, take all of the one with the least, so I'm going to take all 9 negatives. And I write 9 NEG, right? They're 9 negatives. I'm taking them all. Why did I start with the negatives? Because there's only 9 of them and there's 14 positives. Took them all. Take all of the one with the least. Isn't that what number 1 says? Start with the one with the least and take all of them. All right, what do I do next? James? Take 9 of the 14 positives. I take the same amount of the one with the most. So I'm going to use a plus sign and I'm going to do 9 positives. All right, where did I take them out of? The 14 positives. I took 9 of them. Now usually on this step, I like to take and box them in and cross them out, right? Because aren't they opposite numbers? 9 positives and 9 negatives is 0. So what do I do next? What's next? Amber? All right, and how many's left? 5 positives. And hang in there. I know you could, at that point, just write the 5, but stay with it. Write the 5 positives. Remember, what's left is your answer, and then just come down below and write what that is. In this case, we don't need a plus sign. We just write 5, and there's our final answer. A negative 9 and a positive 14 is a positive 5. And it is every time. And look, we have to get to the point where we get every single one right. Every single one. Let's do another one. So some of you, if you don't know what's going on yet, you got to ask questions. If you stay in the dark, you will be in the dark when we leave today. And therefore, then you're going to be driving yourself crazy trying to figure it out tonight. Okay, you can go watch the video. It will be there on Google Plus, and maybe it'll sink in later on. You got to get this down. This is the key of everything we're going to do the rest of our math career. We want to train our brain. Okay, so let's do C. Let's do number 3. C, number 3. Somebody tell me how to start. Don't say it out loud. Everybody, by the way, everybody should be thinking, right? If you'll think, everybody look at me for a second. Hold on a second, Brendan. I should have said this earlier. Look, in math class, you cannot be in cruise control. You guys know what cruise control is? You can't be just not thinking. You can't be thinking about lunch. You can't be thinking about girls. You can't be thinking about boys. Boys, you can't be thinking about sports. They're not as mature yet, girls, so you know how it goes. But anyhow, or video games or whatever. You can't be thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow. You can't be thinking, oh, I'm so bored. This is the worst class in the world. That may be true, but you can't let yourself think that because you got to pay attention. You have to be thinking. You know, in class, my brain is trying to lead your brain. But you have to be thinking so that later on your brain can do it. So again, please, you got to focus in class. You really do. So when I ask a question, I'm expecting every brain in the class to be thinking of the answer. That's what I'm expecting. And if you'll do that, you'll get the most out of the class. But if you go to cruise control, it can get ugly. All right. So let's look at example number 3. So somebody tell me how to start number 3. Brendan? All right. So I'm going to bring down all of the one with the least, and that's 8 negatives. And so I do 8 NEG, right? We're still saying NEG and POS. That's how you start. Take all of the one with the least. Somebody tell me what to do next. Chloe. Take 8 of the 13 what's? Positives. So I take 8 of the 13 positives. By the way, do you have arrows like I have arrows? I have arrows because that's where they're coming from, right? My arrow is showing where they're coming from. Now, some like to figure out how many are left right now and then do the box and cross them out, and some like to do the box right now and cross them out. Either way, all right, either way, let's figure out how many are left first. So look, I'm not even going to ask this question because we learned this in what, first grade? You learned it before kindergarten? Sally, we had 13 cookies and Billy ate 8. How many cookies are left? And we all know the answer is 5. And we know there's 5 positives left. So again, you're going to now cross out the opposite numbers, right? Final answer, 5. Piece of cake. No sweat. Life is easy. Life is grand. Let's do another. All right, somebody tell me how to start with number 4. Let me give you a second to think. How would you start number 4? How would you start number 4? Ashley, how are we going to start number 4? Not quite, but at least you're thinking, and that's good. Colby? Bring down the one with the least. So we're going to take all 22 positives, right? The one with the least. Don't think about the order. Don't say, oh, we started with the back one here, so I start with the back one there. They could be in either location. You got to look for the one with the least and start with all of the one with the least. Okay? So what's next? Somebody raise your hand. Tell me what to do next. I always forget Aaron's name. Aaron, what do I do next? I take 22 negatives out of my 28. So watch. This is a plus. 22 negatives, right? Right? And again, some like to right away box them and cross them out because they're opposite numbers. That's fine. Others like to figure out what's left first. I actually like crossing them off first because now the only thing left is going to be the answer. And again, so Shane, what's going to go here now? It's not really what you want to think. Watch, Shane. Here's all you need to think about is at this point. If I took 22 of these negatives, how many of these negatives are left? I took 22 of them. How many are left? There's 28 of them. I took 22 of them. How many's left? You can use your fingers if you need to. We're going to use our fingers next week when we do the quick way. I saw that look. Fingers. How many of you had an elementary teacher tell you, don't use your fingers? I always tell my classes, why? Why? So you know what people do when the teacher tells them not to use their fingers? Look at my hand right here. Watch my hand. All right, Johnny, what is 4 minus 1? And Johnny's doing this. 3. All right, and they're looking at it. Look, God gave us 10 fingers. They work really well. We have a base 10 system. Use your fingers. It's going to get you the right answer. Use your fingers. All right? They work really, really well. Shane, what do we got? 6, but right idea, right? So the point is, all you got to do is worry about if you use 22 of them, how many's left? And the answer is 6. We use 22 of those 28. There's 6 left, and therefore our answer is negative 6. At the end, all you're looking at is how many's left of the one with the most. Notice every time our sign is the sign of the one with the most. What do we have the most of here? Positives. What's my final answer? Positive. What do we have the most of here? Negatives. What's my final answer? Negative. Because you always have the amount left from the one with the most. Because what ends up happening? The one with the least wipes out that many of the one with the most. And again, when we get to Thursday, we're going to do all this in our head. We'll use our fingers even some. Head or fingers, but both are very quick. But right now, we got to write this kind. So your homework tonight's going to look like this. All right? So hang in there. I know it's a bummer, but we got to train your brain. Uh-oh, number 5. Number 5. How would you start number 5? Hannah, how are we going to start number 5? Bring down the 13 what's? What are they? Positives. 13 positives. All right, key step now. Key step. What is next? All right, I'm trying to get new people. Allison, what do I do next? I take 13 negatives, right? There are really 13 negatives. That's a negative 19. You remember how I told you guys keep the sign with the number? That's 13 positives and 19 negatives. I'm taking 13 of those 19 negatives. Hey, these are opposite numbers. They wipe each other out. Christina, how many negatives are left? I used up 13 of my 19. How many are left? There are 6 negatives left. Therefore, the answer must be negative 6, right? See, at the end, all you're looking at is, okay, I used up 13 of them. How many are left? 6 of them. What are they negatives? Answer, negative 6. Let's do another. Let's do another. Same kind of problem. You know, the only way these are any hard is when the positives are in the front, negatives in the back, and there's more negatives than positives. So again, you're going to take all 22 of your positives. Take the one with the least. I'm going to take my red. I'm going to take the same amount of my negatives. So I need 22 negatives. What are they? Opposite numbers. What do they do? Wipe each other out. What's left, Edward? 10 what's? 10 negatives. And by the way, don't hold on there for me, okay? And just train your brain to the end. Resist writing negative 10 right here. And write 10 negatives. It only takes a second. And then underneath that final answer, all right? Again, I'm just trying to train your brain. I'm trying to get your brain trained into thinking that this wipes out that many of them, and I'm figuring out how many are left. So again, when we get to the shortcut, it's going to be really short and really quick, but we got to train the brain first. Last two examples. Okay, I want you to do number 7. Go ahead and do number 7. Make it look like all the other examples. Make it look like all the other examples. Oh, by the way, just so you know, taking notes is a requirement in this class, not an option. So make sure you're writing your notes. If you're smart, you'll do them in color, and they should look exactly like the board looks. If they don't, you think you're smarter than I am. You might think that, and you might be, but I guarantee you, in training people how to do math, I'll be smarter than you are. Now, you might overall have a higher IQ than me. That's possible. But I've been doing this for 30 years, and I know the best way to get you to understand it. So all you're doing is hurting yourself. So just hang in there. All right, hopefully you took all of what you had the least of. Those are the negatives, so I'm going to take 7 negatives. I need to take the same amount of the 19 positives, so I'll take 7 of the positives. Those are opposite numbers. They wipe each other out. I use 7 of my 19. I have 12 positives left. Answer is 12, right? How many got that right? And hopefully your work looks like that, right? Again, I'm just looking at it, figuring out which one I have the least of first, and I'm going from there. So on number 8, last one, somebody tell me how to start number 8. How do I start? Trying to get somebody that hasn't started. Nathan, how do I start? Yep, and it'll take them all, right? So I take all 23 positives. That's the one with the least. What's next? Let's see, who's been quiet? Has anybody been quiet? I think everybody's participated now at this point. So somebody tell me what to do next. Oh, wait a minute. I haven't heard from Dan back there. Dan, what's next? All right, take down 23 negatives to go with my 23 positives. Those wipe each other out, right? Wipe out. They're gone. What's next? What's next? Hannah? All right, so how many are left? 13 negatives are left. Therefore, our answer must be negative 13. That's all there is to it, folks. But again, we got to train our brain. Questions from you? Questions? Questions? Okay, got another worksheet for you. The nice thing about worksheets are you don't have to write the original problem, so that saves you time. And there's no odds to check, so that saves you time. Now, these guys, before you pack up, it's not time to pack up yet. You're going to be doing math today. You're going to be working on this worksheet. I want you to look at me. All right, be careful now. We've done a couple things. Last night, you added 2 negative numbers. So the first section is adding 2 negative numbers. You have to be able to keep track of what the situation is. We add 2 negatives the same way we add 1 positive and 1 negative. No. So you don't want to get them mixed up. So the first thing you're going to do on the worksheet is add 2 negatives. Then you'll get to what we did today, adding 1 positive, 1 negative, rest of the front and on the back. Okay? And hopefully, it's enough practice to where we're training our brain. Now, again, for those of you that don't read, I say in red, this is exactly how your work should look. That's exactly how your work should look. And in red, I gave you 3 examples right on the sheet, even though we have them in our notes, that say this is exactly how your work should look. That's exactly how your work should look. You're going to be doing it in pencil, but again, you're still writing, pre-POS. 3 NEG, etc. And that's the way to do it. Make sure you circle your answers. All right, so you've got another 6 minutes of class. You guys can probably get the whole first section done, no sweat. So it's pretty easy. Edgar.
You know that 2 plus 2 equal 5.
2 plus 2, 1 plus 1 can equal 3 as well. There's all kinds of interesting little enigmas if you want to come up with stuff. That's pretty neat. Can you show how?
Yeah.
2 plus, what was it? 2 plus 2 equals?
2, there's x, y, and z. If x stands for 1, y stands for 2. X, and z stands for 3, and so on.
Uh-huh.
So you do, well, it's 4x minus 4y minus 4z equals 5x minus 5y minus 4z, 5z. And then when you do that, which is 4 times 1 is 4.
Okay, I'll finish that in a minute. So let me get Aaron's question. I'll come right back. Yes, ma'am. Can you bring that up to me, please? What in the world they are? I'm not taking money. I would hope they're a mint, but they don't look like a mint. So let's see. This would be 4 minus 8 minus 12, and this would be 5 minus 10 minus 15.
It's actually the other way. It's C, Y, and C, X, and Y. I put it on my
Okay. Negative 20, negative 16, negative 20, 15. Work on that. All right, you're dismissed. Have a great day. Remember, the video's on YouTube, on Google Plus if you need it. And do well on that worksheet. Get yourself another check plus. We'll see you on Monday.